What's up, Guitar Den? It's Rich. I'm about to go on a nice run, but before I go on a run, something popped into my head about something that happened recently, and I really think the story is going to bring value to anybody who's affiliated with the Guitar Den or who has aspirations to be an artist. I recently went down to Nashville, Tennessee. I heard that this was the music capital of the world, right? The first thing I thought was, well, they're all playing country music down there, so it really doesn't apply to me. I don't hate country music, but I don't really go out of my way to learn it. So I go down there, and what I saw within a 4-block radius was no less than 100 live performances happening simultaneously. If you stood in the middle of this street and listened to this, the hum of 100 drummers, bass players, vocalists, guitarists, keyboard players playing at the same time reverberated in your head. My head was spinning after a while. I walked down the street and I saw venue after venue after venue. You saw a musician in the window playing some song. You walked 3 feet and a small wall separated the next musician playing a completely different song. It was incredible. I'm like a kid in a candy store. So the first thing I like to do, I don't really like to go in and see the musicians. I like to go in and talk to the bar managers. First thing I do. There was a place called Margaritaville, and they had a solo acoustic guitar player playing in there, and I walked straight up to the bar. 30 seconds, I started talking to the manager, and I was like, yeah, I play on Bleecker Street in New York. I play all over. I run this thing called the Guitar Den. She goes, okay, can you play a gig here? Can you play for 4 hours? Can you play for X amount of dollars? It was very cheap. She's like, but you get tips. She basically handed me the gig. I got a text the next day or 2 days later, right before I was leaving, while I was on the road going back to New York. We want you to come in and audition at 1 o'clock today, and if we like you, we're going to give you a spot. Okay? The first place I walked in, I landed the gig. What did I say? How did I land a gig that easily? It was something about my demeanor, the words that I said. Well, what kind of music do you play? She asked me. I said, well, I play whatever keeps people drinking and dancing. She's like, good answer. She goes, can you play for 4 hours? I didn't give her any grief. In hindsight, she was looking at me saying, is this guy going to give me a hard time if I hire him? And she determined the answer to that was no. The gig was mine. But as I walked from venue to venue to venue down the street, I started talking to musicians on the street. And you know what I heard? I heard people say, yeah, there's a lot of this, there's a lot of that, there's blah, 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 blah. And there was a certain heaviness about these people. One thing that popped out was one musician in particular I was talking to on the street who was telling me that he was about 43, 45, I think he was 50 actually. He didn't look his age, but he started complaining about how he's in competition with all these young, beautiful girls that wear miniskirts and sing songs. And I did see a lot of that, but I also was standing outside of a bar where there was this 45-year-old guy playing a country and western song. So I'm like looking at this guy and I'm like saying, what's going on with you? Where did you lose your enthusiasm for this field? Why can I walk into a bar in 30 seconds, land a job, and you're waffling around here complaining about little this, you're complaining about that? Another thing, I walked in past another place. I saw a guy playing on the stage, and I went up to the bouncer, and said, hey, is the booking agent here? No, they're not here right now. Okay, she's like, come back. And I'm like, well, is it easy to get I'm just curious, is it easy to get a gig here? And he said to me, if you get a gig here, I'll be very angry. I'm like, why? Because I've been trying to get a gig here for 10 years and I can't seem to get a gig here, right? And I'm thinking to myself, I just walked into a bar and landed a gig in 30 seconds. What was it about my demeanor that was able to just sidestep all these people that seemed to be too familiar with the industry, too familiar with the bars, too familiar with the surroundings? Thereby, their minds and their spirits get bogged down in this abyss of cynicism because of challenges that are going to happen whether you're in I'm like, how could you find challenges in a town? The one thing that I said to the bar manager was, I come from New York, and New York has one venue right now that I know that has, I don't even think I have live music now, but this is 100 times more active than the Bleecker Street, New York City music scene. The point that I'm making is familiarity bogs you down. How can you keep hold of that initial beginner's enthusiasm that seems to not, it doesn't pave your pathway completely because you need experience, but how can you maintain that enthusiasm with the experience at the same time? How do you do that? First of all, you gotta see beyond all of the challenges, or the fact that, maybe the pay is a little low. The pay is a little low because there's 150 musicians vying for the same spot. That's just the way it goes. Get a side job. Look into other things. Don't get bogged down. Don't put all your eggs into one basket. These are all litany of challenges, droves of challenges that you're going to face as an artist. Don't get bogged down. Otherwise, somebody with an enthusiastic perspective will just walk in and achieve some success where you've been failing for 10 years.